Welcome to the Music, Money, and Life podcast. This podcast is brought to you by HowToLicenseYourMusic.com. If you want to learn how to make money writing music for TV, films, and ads, visit HowToLicenseYourMusic.com today for a free video series all about how to write music specifically for use in TV shows, films, and commercials. Music, Money, and Life is the podcast that brings together the best minds in music licensing, music publishing, music marketing, and more together in one place. Learn how to license your music and market your music. Learn the latest cutting-edge techniques for getting your music heard and making money from your music. Learn directly from the musicians and industry insiders on the front lines of the music business. Please don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review in iTunes. Every positive review helps us rise up the ranks in iTunes, gain more subscribers, and attract more and more great guests. And now, without further ado, here's today's podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Music, Money, and Life podcast. It's good to be back. I have another great episode for you guys today. We'll get to that in a minute. First, I wanted to go over a couple things at the top of the podcast. If you enjoy this podcast, if you enjoy the interviews and the sort of in-depth conversations that I have on this podcast about things like music licensing, music marketing, music production, and so on, be sure to check out HTLYMPremium.com. HTLYM for How to License Your Music Premium.com. And this site is a new members-only site where I go even deeper. I dive even deeper into a lot of the same topics that I cover on this podcast. We offer live monthly webinars. We have dozens and dozens of in-depth courses, 3, 4, as much as 8 hours long on the topic of music licensing, music production, music marketing. Again, dozens and dozens of courses. We post daily music licensing leads. We have in-depth music business directories for things like music publishers, music supervisors. We have a new Spotify playlist curator directory. So basically, we offer a massive amount of resources for musicians. We focus on the topic of music licensing, but we also get into things like music marketing and promoting your music on platforms like Spotify and so on and so forth. So if that sounds interesting to you, go to, again, HTLYMPremium.com. You can access all of our content, everything we offer for one low monthly price. And if you join between now and December 24th, we're running a massive promotion where you can sign up for about a third of what it would normally cost, and we'll actually throw in an extra month. So you can join for an entire year, and we'll give you an extra month, and it's super cheap. So check it out, HTLYMPremium.com. On today's podcast, I'm speaking with Spencer Davidson, almost the same as my last name, Davidson. My last name is Davison, so not quite the same. But Spencer is actually my producer's intern. My producer is Gary Gray, and Spencer interns for Gary. Spencer has had a ton of success on Spotify. One of the projects that he has produced is up to, I think, about 16 million streams. So I wanted to bring Spencer on to talk about Spotify, the different strategies and techniques that he's implemented that has resulted in a ton of success. I'm really interested in Spotify. This is my second in what hopefully will be a series of interviews and podcasts and eventually even courses on the topic of promoting music on Spotify. My goal with this website and podcast is as much as possible to stay on top of where the music business is and where it's going. And for a couple years, I would say as recently as a couple years ago, I was somewhat skeptical about Spotify. I think like a lot of musicians, and I wasn't quite sure what to make of it. It didn't seem like it really paid that well, and I just wasn't quite sure what to make of it. But now, a couple years later, I've really changed my position, if for no other reason than the fact that I think Spotify is here to stay. And like it or not, this streaming has become a huge part of the music business. And it's also becoming a way to make money, as you'll find out about in today's podcast. It takes a lot of work, and you definitely need to generate a substantial amount of streams for it to add up to something substantial, but it's possible. It's doable, and I'm learning more and more how to get there, how to do it. So without further ado, let's listen to Spencer Davidson tell us all about promoting music on Spotify. Hello, everybody. Today I am speaking with Spencer Davidson. His last name is really close to my last name. People almost invariably assume that my last name is Davidson. People are constantly misspelling it. So in a way, I wish I had your last name. That would make my life easier. Spencer, how are you doing today?
I'm fantastic. Thank you so much for having me on, Aaron. I really, honestly, I've never been really interviewed like this, and I'm just very humbled that someone like yourself would have me on their show.
I'm super pumped to speak with you today, Spencer. And before we get started, I wanted to sort of let people know how we connected. You're actually my producers. You're interning for Gary Gray, who is my producer. How long have you been interning for Gary?
Correct. I've been interning with Gary for about 6 months now, and it's been a fantastic ride. He's a very awesome person, and just a lot of positive energy, which I really like. And he's there to answer any questions that I might have about music business or who I should associate with, stuff like that. And it's just been a fantastic relationship. It's really cool.
Awesome. Shout out to Gary Gray if he's watching this by any chance. What's up, Gary? So a couple months ago, I was talking to Gary, and we were talking about Spotify. And over the last few months, I've become more and more interested in this platform. And Gary was telling me about you, Spencer, and he was telling me that he was like, I have this intern, Spencer Davidson, who has gotten like 13 or 14 million streams on Spotify. I don't remember what the exact number was, but I was really curious about your story. And then we connected a couple of weeks ago on Skype, and you kind of told me what you've been up to. So I would love for you, Spencer, to kind of tell us your story. Tell us your background, how long you've been making music and producing music. I know you have a few different projects that you've been working on, but I'm curious to learn about the strategies that you've implemented. And like you said, anybody can do this, that this isn't a secret formula. But I'm just curious to learn how you've done this. So I'll shut up and I'll let you tell us your story.
So I want to keep it short because there's so many different ways I can take this, but I've been making music for about 10 years, and it started from just DJing parties in high school and at school dances and stuff like that with a crew of friends that we really liked electronic music. And so we went to festivals, and we did all these different events, and we had a fun time, and we started making music in my buddy's garage. And then that started, we started making beats on our computers, little MacBooks and everything. And it wasn't something that was super serious. I mean, we were getting paid to do gigs, but it wasn't a, by any means full-time income. I still had a part-time job. I was lifeguarding in the summer, stuff like that. And so basically from there, I had a buddy who taught me everything that I know today about basic production. Now, advanced production, and there's advanced production and basic production of what I like to call it. And the difference is it's actually kind of a mental game, because it's basic production is I'm doing this as a hobby, and I'm not really serious about this. I'm just, doing the bare minimum, the basics, right? Advanced production is where you're all in, and you're hitting the ground running every single day with you want to make your music the best. Now, I've always looked at it as being the best. And when a friend of mine who actually we used his garage all the time, every day, when he passed away, from that moment, I was like, there's no way I can make this a basic hobby. It's all or nothing. Now, that was in a span of about 7 years or so. So from there, I had no music, no views on my music. I had, you know, just, it was kind of just a hobby for me, because I was in school and everything like that. However, I treated it very seriously. I treated it as a job. And so it was the music business side I really needed to get a handle on, and the finding out how people are going to listen to my music and stuff like that. Now, I did have a little bit of success on Spotify, or I'm sorry, not Spotify, SoundCloud, about 2010, when I had a buddy who started a blog on Facebook. This was when you could just send your music to your buddy, and you can still do that today. You can send your music to your buddy, and he'll say, "Oh, this is great. I'm going to post this." And he did that on his Facebook channel, and then it got like 10,000 views, which was really cool. And that was 2010. And so then I went to school. I went to college, university. I majored in audio production, and I learned some stuff there. But what I really did was learn all that I know on YouTube. YouTube was what I really wanted to know and learn, and how to make beats like, you know, the Skrillexes, the Dead Mouses. That's really what I was focusing on. And when I graduated college, I figured, okay, how do I get, I'm not, you know, messing around anymore. How do I get my music heard? So then I started researching, and I started really networking, and the researching turned into networking, because I knew I had to get out of the studio and not just stay in the studio. I knew I was somewhat confident in my music, but I knew that if I wasn't even fully confident in my music, I must say, but I knew that if I got out of the studio and I went to the networking events, like meetups, meetup.com is fantastic. If you have fans that are on meetup.com, they're already ahead of the game, because they're going to find those little meetup production groups. I'm part of a production group called Orange County Electronic Music Producers, or OCEMP, and you can look that up. And we have about 1,000 people in that group of individuals that come in, and Gary does speeches at that meetup. And so if you're in the LA area, or even the San Diego area, or even the Las Vegas area, we have people coming from all over the region to come to that meetup, because it's a very tight-knit group of people, and the meetup is thriving. We have money to find spaces so we can have meetings, all that stuff. But I wish they had that about 10 years ago, because when I was first starting, it was just me and a group of friends that were, you know, trying to figure it out. And so now we have legit people that have been in the industry for, you know, a few years, and you know, that can help you with your music and stuff like that, and just networking. I think I'll be speaking there again down the line. But anyway, moving on to how it really happened was that I met a guy named Thompson. You can look him up on Spotify, iTunes, everywhere. He's a social media guru. He knows exactly how to get stuff on social media, and how to make it really popular. And so what happened when I met up with him was, he knew social media, I knew production. So I said, okay, maybe we can like work together and do this stuff. He's like, yeah. You help me make beats, and I'll get it really popular. And I said, okay, I gave it a couple tries. And then what really happened was that he knows a lot of different bodybuilders, so he was able to put the music we were making in their videos. So he was making a video for them. I think it was a group of like 3 guys every single day. So
and were these, if I can just jump in really quick, were these
please.
videos for YouTube? What platform was he promoting? Were these bodybuilders promoting their videos?
All social media. So
Okay.
mainly YouTube and Instagram. Is this answering your question? I just want to make sure I'm staying on track.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're getting there. This is really the it sounds like we're getting to sort of the meat of the story of how you were able to get all these streams. So the artist, you said his name is Thompson. How do you spell that, by the way? Is it with a P or is it a
THMPSN?
THMPSN. Okay, so
Yeah.
Thompson. So you hooked up with this guy. He, like you said, new social media, you knew production. You guys started to collaborate, and then he approached these bodybuilders. He was in with his community, and so where did it go from there? How did that catapult you guys into millions and millions of streams on Spotify?
So this is cool because for the longest time, before I get into this, I must say that this is cool because for the longest time I was always like, oh, it's a record label that's going to get you there. It's a record label that's going to do this. It's all of this stuff. But as of right now, me and him are the record label, and we don't need anyone else. And so this is the beauty of what I'm going to tell you is that you don't need anybody else. And right now we are discussing deals with major labels, and obviously they still want to do a 360 deal, meaning that they I don't know if your fans really know what that deal is, but it's a deal when they own everything. They own the full circle. It's 360. So they own if you go on Ellen, let's say, they get you on there and they receive the money. Well, actually, they probably foot the bill for you to get in there. But if you play at Red Rocks in Colorado, they get some of that. If you play at festivals or if you do commercial, they get some of that. So
yeah, they get a cut of everything. Hence the name 360. So they get a piece of everything. Is that something you guys are considering doing?
No, we would like to do a. We've been approached by two majors right now, and we said politely, absolutely not. We want to do a. I'm also mentored by is a guy named Isabella. He's Usher's producer. He said you need an admin deal. So I said okay, and talking with my lawyer, he's like, well, to get an admin deal, you need this, and all this stuff. And really, the research always continues. I learn something every single day. But now to get into the meat of everything. Really, it's about and even before I really get into the meat of it, I don't mean to raise so much hype around it, but I really want to say that you got to surround yourself with people who want to support you and who you want to support. Because if you don't have that solid team of, because what made me think about it was my lawyer. My lawyer's my age. He doesn't have a ton of experience. However, he makes things really easy, and he isn't he fully understands. I've known him for a few years. He fully understands my artistic vision, and he supports it. Thompson also does. I just actually finished a 2-day writing camp with him. We made all sorts of music together, and you got to surround yourself with people that just want to bring you up. It's that simple. And so if you have that crew of people, you have anybody who they want to use you for their own benefit, that's poison. And that will not get you the streams and get you into the position that I'm going to be talking about today. Is that good to add? I love that. I love to say that,
Absolutely. I mean, I feel like we could have a whole separate conversation in terms of how to find those people and how to connect with those people. Maybe after we get into the Spotify streams, we can talk about, ideas for networking and finding people like that, finding people that want to lift you up. But let's get into the streaming. So you were kind of starting to tell the story about what led to this success on Spotify.
So yes. Well, so I was approached by my buddy and he said, "Hey, I can get your music millions and millions and millions of streams." I said, "No way. That's not possible. You're insane almost." And so, we had a couple more conversations, and then he said, "Hey, just make me, 4 songs and we'll see where it goes." I said, "Okay." And so he checked out the songs. He was also interested in production, but we put them online and he put them in all these videos. I think he put them in a video a week for the first 2 months. And what that did was it slowly, all he would do is tag the song at the end of the video. So he'd put it on YouTube, and then as the bodybuilding video would go up, and from there, in the description and at the end of the video, he would have the link to the song, either on Spotify or on YouTube. Now, you can kind of grow either way. We've really focused on Spotify. That's what, because they pay us the most every month. So we've really focused on getting the Spotify up and running. And that's when the bodybuilder would upload a new video, he would go on his Instagram and say, "Hey, this new song is really cool. Check it out. And the Spotify link is here. Just, swipe up," or, he would say, "Swipe up." And so they would go to the song with that organic traction. We obviously wouldn't have to pay the guy or anything like that, because James was making all these videos. So it was easier to get into that loop. And from there, we could make Spotify playlists surrounding working out. And it was interesting because it naturally came about because all the followers of these bodybuilders wanted, they want to be like these bodybuilders, so they listen to their music all the time. And it's if that makes sense. Yeah. So they listen to music in the gym, they listen to music in the car, wherever. So because they hear that music on the video and they're like, "Oh, if I listen to this music, it's going to be it's going to really help my workout." And James has gotten messages from people saying, "Hey, this song really helped me with my workout today," stuff like that. So it organically grew like that. And so what I really want to tell your audience, Aaron, is how they can get the same traction that we got. Because it could be a little daunting, hearing this, what we did,
Yeah, no, because like what you're saying sounds amazing, but what I'm thinking maybe people are going to be wondering is maybe they're thinking that this is great, Spencer, that you connected with this social media influencer who happened to know this bodybuilder who happened to have this huge audience. But what if I don't have any of those things lined up? What if I don't know somebody who is already successful on YouTube and Instagram? How do you sort of get started if you're sort of in the very beginning of all this?
So this is where I circle back and I say the relationships. You got to surround with people that want to build you up, and not only just themselves. And if it has to be mutual. It has to be 100% mutual. If you go in thinking, okay, like this person's going to do this, or if you go in with something with ill intentions, it's just not going to work out for you. So what that being said, what you got to do is get out of your studio and go to the networking events, go to network and find someone who says, or even message somebody with a huge YouTube page and say, hey, I have music, and make sure that music is royalty free, and say, hey, will you, if I give you my music, will you put it in your video and you link my channel or my to where the song is? And if it's yes, then just keep pumping out the jams and email them every single week and say, hey, like, I got new songs. Have about like 5 humongous channels, like with 500, 200,000, because over 1 million, it gets a little difficult with actually getting their attention because they're so busy doing all their other stuff. So find channels with like 100,000 to 2 to 500,000 that because they will need music, and just throw it to them and say, hey, look, you can use this for your channel. If you want custom music, I can help you with that. Just let me know. And from there, you can really start to grow. If you have 5, if I had 5 Jameses, my music would be like, I'd have 5 times the amount of streams that I have now. And not only just making music for him, but making music for myself and giving it to the owners of these channels.
Yeah. Is that something, what is sort of the next step for you, Spencer? Is that your goal, to now connect with 5 other similar people, or what is the future? What is your strategy going forward?
So my strategy is, now I need to look for that. I need to look for 5 others, but the relationship that I have with James right now is so awesome, and I understand the plan, and I know how he works, that I really want to hit that hard right now, me personally. And what he's doing is that he's actually, we discussed yesterday a rollout plan for my own artistry. And, my stuff's on Spotify now, and everything, but to get to where his numbers are, that on my own music, we're going to be doing the rollout plan. I actually have 3 bodybuilders that I'll be putting music with them. And because now it's interesting, he's worked with mainly one bodybuilder the whole time. One bodybuilder really liked his music, so he's used it on every single video. So he's kind of, in a way, pigeonholed himself into this one guy. So if another bodybuilder uses it, people get upset and they're like, you stole his music, you did this, and it's this kind of funny back and forth little bickering, which is very interesting. But so I'm going to be working with, to answer your question, yes, I am going to be pursuing more avenues to put my music in. And I've also done, I've talked to Gary about sync licensing and all this stuff. And I'm even before I met Gary, I knew that world. And so that is also another way. And that's a whole nother conversation in itself, I must say, but that's another way that you can really get music, your fan base to grow.
Yeah, what I love about all of this, and the reason I sort of have become interested in Spotify over the last few months, is in listening to your story. And I think you listened to the other podcast I did a couple weeks ago with an artist who goes by the name Kili Guru. And listening to these different stories, what strikes me as very exciting about this is something, like you said, anybody can do this. There's really no barrier to entry. Anybody can put their music on Spotify. Anybody can email different YouTube channels. So I like the potential, because I feel like what happens a lot in the music business is, as artists, we make music and we're passionate about our craft. But I feel like for a lot of us, we sort of reach this point where we're just not sure how to move forward. You know, I feel like if we have a plan, if we know what the goal is, it's much easier to work towards that goal. So I feel like with Spotify, I'm starting to see sort of a way you can deliberately and methodically sort of work towards this goal. With that said, I'm sure there's an element of luck. Let's talk a little bit about sort of the quality of music you make versus connecting with the right people. How much of this do you feel like is the music? I mean, obviously the music needs to be good. The production needs to be good. What percentage of it is the music itself versus just connecting with the right people at the right time?
That's such a great question, because honestly, I don't think that my music would have the same effect on people. James has gotten messages from people that have been in hard places of their lives, that said like, "Hey, this song really helped me through this depression. This song really helped me through this and that." And you know, honestly, if you really pushed hard, and it's another thing when this whole thing is not easy. Which as I know you understand, but it's simple, but it's not easy. It's the simplicity of it that I think people have a hard time figuring it out. But that being said, yes, the music has to be. That's number one, to be perfectly honest. The music has to be good. And I had a whole album of songs that the whole time I was like super depressed that I was making, because I knew that I'm like, man, no one's going to hear this stuff. And then I hoped and prayed really hard. And I was like, you know, just these songs just need to be heard by people. And, you know, one thing led to another, and then I was asked, "Hey, can I use your music?" This is James. I said, "Yeah, that's fine." So, that being said, yes, the music is number one.
Yeah, that makes sense. I want to clarify one thing for people listening to this. So James, who you keep referring to, releases music under the name Thompson. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's his last name. Yeah.
Okay. So he releases music under the name Thompson. You've produced this music. This is the project that has gotten, is it 13 million Spotify streams?
16.
Up to 16 million.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also release music under your own name, right, Spencer? And you said you
Mm-hmm.
have like 500,000 streams, which isn't too shabby either. So I just wanted to make that clear for people. So yeah, obviously the music needs to be great. Let's get into, if we can, some tactical things in terms of strategies for releasing music. I'm also, if we could go over how much streaming pays. I think I touched on that in the last podcast, but I wanted to get your take on that as well. Maybe we can start there. So I think you said, did you say 1,000 per 100,000 streams? Is that right? I think I recall you saying something along those lines.
I was listening to your podcast with Killigrew last night, and honestly, he hit it right on the head. It's about. I mean, he's in Sweden. I'm here in America, right? And so, listening to that, where he's like, yeah, about 4,000, per like. I don't even remember what he said. It's right around about $4,000 to $4,000 to $5,000. For my own, where I am in my region of Los Angeles, California, right around 4,000 to 6,000 per million streams, comfortably. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've heard between 4,000 and 8,000, but okay. So we can say on the conservative side, 4,000 per million streams, right?
Yes, and it is Yeah, and of course I'm counting because I have a lot of fans in Australia and the UK. So that's overseas. And also, if you submit your music to a PRO, they also pay every quarterly. So not only you'll get money from the publishing with putting out your song, but you also get it from the writing aspect. That's what I receive every quarter. Now that's only like a couple $100 every quarter, but I would safely say conservatively four to five grand per million. Yeah.
Okay, so that gives us something to shoot for. So apart from this strategy, Spencer, of reaching out to influencers, which I think is a great idea, by the way, that makes perfect sense. Do you have any other ideas or strategies for, in terms of getting on playlists or submitting music directly to Spotify playlists? What are your thoughts in terms of just any ideas in general?
Well, you had a couple people on. I know. I'm referencing the last podcast you did. You guys talked about CD Baby and how you can submit early, and that is fantastic. I personally use DistroKid. That's been the easiest place, and we're now in talks with working with another publishing company that's actually going to send us a royalty check every month. Because DistroKid and CD Baby and all that stuff will send you, I think, a check every 3 months, because they have to wait for the vendors and Spotify, iTunes, all that stuff to come in. So yes, Spotify playlists are key. Again, meet the people with the Spotify playlists, and if you meet someone with a huge Spotify playlist, especially if it's online, really incubate the friendship for a while, and however long, and connect different ways. And instead of being like, can you, it's more a, let me help you. Here, I found some really killer, even if they're not your songs, you just say, hey, I found a few really killer songs you'd really like for your playlist. Like for instance, Killigrew, if he made a chill step playlist. I've totally dabbled in chill step. I know that genre. I know it. He probably is a master of that genre, but I could go online, or I could go into my library and say, hey, Chris, here are 5 songs that I have that can help your Spotify playlist by you not having to go out and look for that music. Here you go. I wanted to help you out by doing that. And you got to take a mentality of helping that person and saying, hey, I'll make your job easy. Here's all these 5 songs, whatever. And whatever they need, I call it the Gary Gray approach, by asking what do they need or want,
Yeah, no, this is a theme that comes up a lot in the context of licensing as well. I mean, it's the same. I hear the same sort of idea and philosophy in the context of publishing and working with libraries is, who would have thought that actually being helpful and nice to people goes a long way. So it makes sense. I mean, I guess the cynical part of me, Spencer, is, and it's a very small percentage of my mentality, but there is a part of this that it starts to seem like a lot of work, right? You've got to connect with people and email people and make playlists and offer suggestions. And it starts to feel like a lot of work that's not directly related to music. Maybe talk about that, because I kind of feel like this is just the reality of the music business in 2018 going into 2019, especially for streaming and licensing. There's a lot of legwork that goes into this. How do you sort of stay motivated and get all this work done?
So yeah, even with my success, there are days when I wake up and I say, how am I going to make money today? And how am I going to advance my project? And there have been so many times, over the summer, my buddy James was so focused on and he's kind of ADHD, so he has a hyper focusing thing. That's why when I go up and see him, he's just hyper focused on the music, right? So he was all hyper focused for a few months on the social media aspect, where someone like me, where I know he's busy and he's returning my calls, but it's been very slow. It's like, oh man, you kind of get that, like, oh, he's moving on without me. But what you got to do is stay real and stay cool. Anybody, he's worked with probably 4 or 5 other just friend producers that have like given him some music, and he's, gotten pretty famous and stuff, but, or gotten some plays, and he doesn't really associate with any of them because they've all, I kind of say, gone crazy mode, where it's a, hey, like, what about me? What about me? And I've approached James with, hey, what else can I help you with? What can I help you with? And if I had that attitude from the very get-go, because I didn't have that attitude, I was probably one of the only musicians or DJs in my hometown that could DJ on vinyl very well when I was 16, 17 years old. So I had a big chip on my shoulder, and I was just like, you should book me for this gig because I can play vinyl and nobody else in this town can. What kind of an attitude is that? And I had to get kicked around and told off a few times before I really understood that that's not the mentality to have. And so having that wanting to help mentality, not to where it's people are tromping all over you, but that wanting to help mentality will take you places. I tell you.
So yeah, just staying positive, friendly, professional. It makes perfect sense. That I don't think this is the right business to go into with a huge ego and expectations of people serving you. Makes total sense. Hey, I had a question for you. This is completely left field. It's somewhat connected to this conversation, but I'm just wondering, I did a blog post a couple days ago, and I actually interviewed this guy. It was about 2 years ago on my podcast. Have you heard of this guy, Matt Farley, who has written like 19,000 songs?
Matt Farley. That sounds really, really familiar. It doesn't ring a bell, but that sounds really familiar. What's up with him?
So this guy, like I said, I interviewed him like 2 years ago, and his whole shtick, for lack of a better word, or his strategy is he got a check for like 74 cents, back in like 2012 from Spotify for one song. And he's like, hey, that's not a lot, but what if I had, 20,000 songs that each did that? So I guess it's it's more funny than anything, but over the course of 4 or 5 years, he wrote and released, I think he's up to like 19,000 songs, and apparently makes like $65,000 a year just from sheer volume. So I guess we could use him as a segue into this next question: is volume, quantity versus volume. The reason I bring this up is I did a blog post where I mentioned this guy, and somebody wrote me and said, this is so sad. Is this what the music business has become? And I guess I can look at it one or two ways. On one hand, it is it's a ridiculous amount of music. Obviously, it's not all going to be great works of art, but on the other hand, the guy goes to work every day and he writes music and has figured out a way to make money from music. What do you think in terms of quantity versus quality?
Well, I'm just going to use hip hop as an example, and I don't mean to poke fun. I grew up with Dre and NWA and like all of the Cunning Linguistics, all of this hip hop. Nowadays you talk to a lot of old school people, or even just producers in the industry, and hip hop is just it's garbage because the only reason why is it's And here's the thing. I had a buddy who made 800 tracks over the summer. Now, those are hip hop tracks. Those aren't really, I guess, dance music tracks. Now, you can get in, this could be a whole debate in itself. And I'm probably like, people are going to be like, some people might be like upset because I'm talking about this, but it's really important and relevant. If, let me give you an example. If Skrillex came out with Scary Monsters and Nice Sprites and it was total garbage, do you think people would still be talking about him today? I don't think so. I think what he had was extremely high quality, and Joel Zimmerman or Deadmau5 saw that, and he said, yeah, this is like really good quality. It's super, super awesome. And he was just able to get it into the right place, and he filled that niche of that cool music that people were really yearning to at that time of 2010 or whenever it was. And he really capitalized on a lot of the good sounds that, quote, I love this expensive sounds that he got out of it. Now, a lot of these hip hop today is very much the image that person has. It's the Little Pumps or the Supreme Patties who have millions and millions and millions of followers online. And so it's not essential for them to have the best music on the planet. They literally can there's one song where one of them is just saying blah, blah, blah the whole time, and it's auto-tuned, so it sounds pleasurable, but it's at the same time, on a production and musical standpoint, it's, garbage. And it, of course it is subjective. I'm not putting anybody down for liking that music. But in terms of, I'm just looking at it logically and looking at it in a production thing. And so what I would actually say is it's simple, and it's not that difficult. I wouldn't say I guess garbage is a very harsh word. But I would say it's very simple, and the production behind it is not fully thought out, in my opinion. I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't heard the track, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's probably garbage. It's just based on what you've told me. But yeah, listen, I think we should all strive for quality, obviously, and figure out a way to get paid for the music we make. And that's really what I'm trying to do with this series of podcasts and interviews. So I think this is probably a good place to stop. Spencer, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate you taking the time. If it's cool, what I'd like to do at the end of each of these podcasts is play one of your tracks. I'd like to feature a track from all of my guests. Do you have a track of one of your songs from one of your own, from your personal music project that we can play at the end here?
Yeah. I have so many, and I was thinking about this last night. Which song do I want to play? Maybe I'll play, yeah, you know what? I have a brand new track I just finished yesterday. It's not even out yet. Should I send that to you after we get done here, or how do you want to do that?
Yeah, that would be great. Send it to me after we get done, and then I'll edit it in at the end. What's the name of the track?
The name of the track is called "Live It Up."
Live It Up.
Yeah, and it's like 100 BPM. I don't really know what kind of genre it is, to be perfectly honest. It's you put it into your DAW, it will say, or digital audio workstation, it will say 100 BPM. So it's just I think you'll like the song. So I'm glad that I would love if you played it.
Awesome. So this is Spencer Davidson. This is his track, Live It Up. Spencer, thanks so much for doing this.
Thank you, Aaron. Have a great day.
Time last night. Maybe I can make it right. Slide on closer, baby. We can talk about it. No need to be mad. Hate to see you sad. Yes, I know I'm crazy, crazy about you, crazy about your love. I know I'm a flirt sometimes. I know I get drunk some nights. I know I get way too high. I just wanna live it up with you. I know that it might be tough. I know when you've had enough. It's just how I show my love. Darling, can I live it up with you? Last night, maybe I can make it right. Slide on closer, baby. We can talk about it. No need to be mad. Hate to see you sad. Yes, I know I'm crazy, crazy about you, crazy about your love. I know I'm a flirt sometimes.